Hello everyone, welcome to Coding with Sijas. This is the fourth video in the UI5 series. If you're coming to this channel for the first time, do subscribe this channel to get updates about new videos. Also, share this channel with your friends who is interested in learning UI5. In any of the last video, if you got any queries or doubts or I missed anything to explain, do leave a comment. It is really important for me that you have no doubts after the sessions. I will be incorporating another video answering all your queries later in the series. In the last video, we learned how to enhance a simple UI5 application using views, models, and controllers. We also brushed up in few topics like property, aggregation, association, and learn how to use control and SDK. In this video, we will learn more about those topics. I suggest you to open a browser window with UI5 SDK. The link to the SDK is given in the description. So I have moved the last video's project into archive under view model folder. You can find this code in the Git repository, which I have mentioned in the last video. I'll also be giving the link in this video's description as well. So let's start by opening the web app folder and let's remove the content of the first page or first view. So we have a view with nothing in it. We also will go to the controller and remove all the functions under it. Let's serve the module. Give serve. I have brought the tab here and let's open web app folder, which has nothing in it. Now, as I mentioned, I have opened few tabs here. I have the icon explorer. I have the FI tools. I'll close this. We need only the API reference. Also, in case if you want to know how to use samples, we can use samples. I'll not open it. I'll just keep API reference and icon explorer for now. Now let's go to the application and add our first app. So app is the first control we are adding. App. So to get to know more about app, let's open sap.m.app. Here you see, let's go to the constructor and it's simple app with, this is the constructor. This is how we instantiate in this in a JavaScript. Let's go to the properties and let's see the properties what is available. So app, you can give a home icon. Now let's add a page. So what are the properties for page? I click here. I come here. sap.m.page. Let's go here. So I'm just giving an icon here for the page and let's refresh this. And also let's give a title. Title is very important. So you can see here, after I give an icon, it didn't come here. And that is because if you check the reference here, it says that from 1.20 version, this property is deprecated. So right now you see here, it's version 1.96, which is way ahead than the version where it was supporting. So let's only add the properties which is not deprecated. So let's go and create and go to the title property. So title, and I'll give a title. Learn about UI5. Simply come here and refreshing, I should see the title, Learn about UI5. Our goal for this video is to learn more about controls, properties, aggregations, and events, methods, etc. So I will go ahead and add a panel. So panel is another control. You can see that in your samples. So I'll add sap.m.panel. So panel belongs to M control. So I do not need any namespacing. I'll directly add panel. So this panel, if I look at the properties, you can see here by default is expandable false. So I'll give expandable true. And I want default, it is not expanded, which is okay for me. I don't want it to be expanded by default. I refresh here. I'll be getting a panel which is expanding. If I want, I can give a title here. How to give a title? Again, go back and check the SDK. I can see here there is something called header text. So I'll give here header text as learn about properties. So in this panel, we will add how to access properties of a control. So first control which we learned today is text control. So again, let's go here. Instead of panel, we give text. Let's give text area because text we have used in the last video. So what is text area? If you are aware of HTML, you know that there is a control called text area which is used to add a multi-line text. So inside this, I'll give a text area. This is self-closed. Okay. So I will be getting a text area here. You can see here a text area. And by default, I want it to have 20 columns. It does have 20 columns. Growing false, maximum line 0, height. So I'm not giving any of these properties. By default, it is 2 rows. And you can see here, let me add some content. It has 2 rows of content by default. So I want this to have more rows. So I'll go to the text area and say I need maybe 5 rows. I'll come back here and refresh. Now you see that every time I have to expand to see the content. So what will I do is I go here and say expand it as true. Now I don't have to expand it every time. By default, it is expanded. So let's see how we can enhance the text area. So maybe if you look at the text area is inheriting input base. So there is a control called input base, which is parent for many input base controls. So let's go to input base and see what are the supported classes. So all these are supported classes of type input base. So if we go to text area, you don't see a property where I can add value to the text area. That is because it's already defined in the parent property. So if I click here, show borrowed properties, I can see the properties which is being borrowed from the parent, which is input base. So if I look now, I can see there is editable property which comes from the parent. I have placeholder which comes from there. So I'll give placeholder now, which says enter some text. Go here, refresh. You can see there is a placeholder under some text. So how to give a default value? I can give it by adding a value property. So let's see from where we can get it. If you scroll through the SDK, you can see there is a value property. And I give a value. This is the initial value. I'll save, I'll go back and refresh. So you see here, this is what is our initial value, and this is how you set the properties. Now I will create another panel for learning about events and functions or methods. So I'll create another panel. Same properties, copy and paste it. I'll give a clear cut here to define a new learn about events and methods. So I have another one which is having events and methods. So in this, I will add a control, another text area. Okay. And by default, editable, I'll make it false. So I don't want this to be editable by the end user. So I will close the text area. I'll come here, I'll refresh. Sorry. I'll save it. I'll come here and refresh. I get a new text area which I cannot edit. So this is editable. This is not editable. So what are we going to do here? I'll give an ID for this. And let me call it as copy underscore text underscore area. So I'll call this copy underscore text underscore area. So let's see what are the events supported by the text area. So if you go here, you can see there is an event here and live change. So live change is an event which is fired whenever user have modified the text shown in the text area. So as soon as I change something in the content over here, the live change event will be triggered. So let's see how we can do that. Before that, I'll remove the value property because I don't want any value to be filled in the text area. Now let me give live change function. And I will call it method as copy to second text area. So what I'm intending to do here is, as soon as user updates the data in the first text area, I'll be copying that to the second text area. So I copy it, I go to the controller and I add the method. This is my new method. I go to the function and I create the method. So how do I get the value? So for that, we have to see the live change event here. So if you look at this, live change event as one parameter, which is the event parameter, controller event. So I will specify a event here, O event. I can give any object. Here I'm giving it as O event as a variable. So how do I get the value? I create a var s value. So this is some naming convention where s stands for string. So I get the value by using get source, and in the get parameters I get value. So if I do something like get parameters, this, so O event dot get parameters, I will get it. So how do I know what's the value coming in it? I will do a console dot log of that s value. So we are writing in the console. So if you're writing something in the console, you have to open the inspect window. So let me open the inspect window. You can find it in tools, developer tools. You get the inspect window over here. So I'll refresh this page and I'll type something like SIJAS. So you can see here the message is coming, but it's because of the verbose logging. So I will take the messages here. So you can see as soon as I type, I'm getting all the values in the console.log. Another way of getting this data, there are two ways of getting this data. I can use dot value. This will be assigning to it. So I'll go here and refresh. I type SIJAS. You can see each line by line I'm writing, it is being shown here. So I know that I can get the value here. So what is the other way? The other way is, instead of getting the entire object and using the dot operator, I can directly give get parameter. In double quotes, I'll give what value I want. Let's refresh. Do the same thing. SIJAS. Let me increase the browser window a little bit, so it's easy. You can see here SIJAS. It's coming here. Now our next task is to assign the value to the next text area. For that, I'll create a second text area object, second text area. It's any, I can give it any variable. Only important thing is the ID should match. So this dot by ID, I'll use the ID of copy text area. So I have two things now. I have the value of the first text area. I have the instance of second text area. Now I need to put the value of first one to the second one. So what I do is I go to again back to my SDK or my API reference. I go to the methods. So in methods, you can see there are many methods, and we will search for a method called set value. So what you have to understand is, for every property here, there is a setter and getter, which means if there is a busy property, there will be a get busy and there is a set busy. See? So what I'm searching for is a set value, which I have over here. I do have a set value. So text area dot set value and s value. Now we'll go back to our page, refresh, and see the magic. Just is teaching UI5. So now we have learned what is event, how to understand an event, and how to use methods of a control. So now let's go for aggregations. So in the last video, I have explained aggregation is something like a wrapper where I can incorporate more and more controls under it. So you have seen here, unknowingly, we have used an aggregation called panel. So what is the aggregation of panel? So if I go to a panel back, you can see here there is an aggregation which is content. By default, we have content as an aggregation. So as I explained in the last video, any control which is extending a control object considered as a candidate to be put into the content. So that is how we have used. So let's explicitly see about a content. So I'll create another panel, same properties, but here learn about aggregation. So which is the control I'm going to use? My favorite control is something called sap.m.table. So I'll use sap.m.table. Table. So I'll see table. So first table, what we have to notice is what are the properties So all these things are the properties available in it. Default, we have a columns. We don't have a default aggregation here. So in this we have a columns. We have to specify a column aggregation if you want columns to the table. And let's see what are the borrowed aggregation. So the borrowed aggregation is, for us, it's items is the very other important, and this is the default aggregation. So this comes from the list base. It doesn't come from the table. So how does it get it? That is because if you go to the top, you can see that table is extending a list base. So any aggregation, events, methods, and properties of list base will be inherited by table. So first thing, let's go and add a table. The table is again an M control, so I don't need a namespace. So I'll add a table. I'll close it. Come here and refresh. So we have a table. Right now we do not have any visible columns in the table, so we need to set some table content. So for that, what we will do is we will first add an aggregation for title. So where we can bring that, so I'll untick this one. Columns is there. Let's see what is the other options. So I have something called header toolbar. So header toolbar takes M toolbar. So first let me add an aggregation called header toolbar. I'll close it. So I have a header toolbar. So let's see what is the outcome of it. Refresh. And I don't see anything because I haven't added a toolbar yet. I have only added an aggregation. So let's go here. Click on M toolbar. I'm opening that in a new tab. So in toolbar. So let's create a toolbar. So toolbar itself is a container which has its own aggregation. So I can use anything in it. So the first thing I'm going to use is something called a title with information like, so let's make this table as an employee table, which has first name, last name, age, maybe address. So title, I'll give a title as employees. Close it. So let's go here and refresh this. So I do not have any information there. Title takes a prop. Let's see the errors. Do we have any errors here? We do have some errors. Let's see the properties of title. sap.m.title. My mistake. It's text, not title. It's title, text as employees. Let's go here, refresh, and I should see a title called employees. Now next thing is to add a columns aggregation. So columns, columns, it's plural. Columns. I'm closing the columns aggregation. So what does columns take? So columns takes a sap.m.column control. So let's see. I'm closing this. Let's see a column control. So how many columns I need? I'll create maybe 4 columns. So before that, let's see what is the aggregation of columns. It has header, which is default. So I'm not giving any aggregation because I want it to be the default one. So I'll give a label control. Label text equal to first name. Let's go back to the table, refresh it. I see I have a column called first name. Similarly, I'll duplicate this by using Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So I have created 4 columns: last name, first name, age, and maybe email address. Come here, refresh it. I can see first name, last name, age, and email address. These are the columns. So we know that we need something called items. So items is our default aggregation. Since we have specified all other aggregation, I will be specifying an items aggregation. So what does items contain? So item aggregation. So let me click on borrowed aggregation, and items aggregation takes, sorry, we are looking at the wrong side, table, and borrowed aggregation, and let's choose items. So item, choose anything of list based type. We have many classes here, many other controls of type list based, but we are interested in column list item because that is what is supported by table. So table can only take column list item as its item aggregation. So I'll give a column list item. So what does column list item contains? There is a default aggregation called cells. So I'm not specifying anything. I directly give a text here, text with text. Let me call it Muhammad, which is my name, and save it. Let's see what happens with this. You will see that Muhammad will be the first item here. So I'll add more and more items here. Muhammad Sijaz of age 29, and email address is me@sijs.in. So if you have any queries, do mail me there. Refresh. You see all these things are coming up here. I want multiple column list items. Copy, paste. So I'll give Anha Sijas of age 1 and baby.sijas@in. I get the second one here. So this is how we use aggregations. So maybe in the later videos, I'll show you how to duplicate values without using column list items, something called a binding and models. So catch you in the next video. If you have any queries, please put a comment and I'll try to answer that. So see you in the next video, guys. Bye bye.